Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about populations, samples, and hypotheses. In this first video, we're just going to be looking at distinguishing between populations and samples. So first, for some vocabulary, a population is the collection of all data that you want information about. So for example, this data could be responses to a survey, maybe measurements of an entire class, or counts. A sample, on the other hand, is a subset of a population. So let's say I'm looking at a population of all high school students across America. A subset of that, or a sample of that, would maybe be looking at the high school students in just a certain state. It is normally unrealistic to attain the data of an entire population, so we choose a random sample that is representative of the population, and then we can draw conclusions about the population based on the random sample. This can just be more reasonable. So for instance, looking at that high school problem, it can be unreasonable to get responses from every single high school student in America. So we may choose a sample that is representative of America, maybe some in every state, and do get some data based on that sample. However, if the sample is not representative of the population, the conclusions drawn can be invalid. So maybe if we're looking at a question to all high school students across America, but we only ask high school students in California, they may give different responses than those, let's say, in Tennessee. So those conclusions could end up being invalid. So for this first set of problems, we're going to identify the population and the sample, and then we're going to describe the sample. Number 1 says, in the United States, a survey of 2,184 adults ages 18 or over found that 1,328 of them own at least one pet. So here the population consists of the responses of all adults ages 18 or over in the United States. And so for population, I'm just going to write responses. All adults ages 18 or over. In the U.S. Here we are looking at a sample of them, and so here the sample is how many were actually surveyed. So we didn't survey all of the population. We didn't survey every single adult ages 18 or over in the U.S. Instead, we see that we surveyed 2,184 of them. And so my sample would be 2,184 responses of adults in survey. And then it wants us to actually describe the sample. And so we notice in the diagram that the sample is a subset of the responses of all adults in the United States. And we see that this sample consists of 1,328 adults who said they own at least one pet. So I can say the sample has 1,328 adults have at least one pet. We know we surveyed 2,184 in total, and so that means that 856 adults, if I subtract those, do not own any pets. Okay, let's look at one more. So here it says, to estimate the gasoline mileage of new cars sold in the United States, a consumer advocacy group tests 845 new cars and finds they have an average of 25.1 miles per gallon. And so we want to figure out what our population is and what our sample is. So we're estimating the gasoline mileage of new cars sold in the United States. So the population would be the gasoline mileages of all new cars sold in the United States. However, the consumer advocacy group only tests 845 new cars. So that means that the sample is gasoline mileages of 845 new cars in test. And so here we notice in the diagram that the sample again is a subset of the gasoline mileages of all new cars in the United States. And we see that the sample consists of 845 new cars with an average of 25.1 miles per gallon.